Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Esteem Love channel on YouTube. Art is the heart of Esteem Love. And today, I would like to introduce you to an inspiring artist, Dwayne Glapion. For Dwayne, art is a spiritual communion with God. You can talk with Dwayne in person in the Redline Contemporary Art Center and experience his spiritually uplifting faces in the crowd, 100 portraits of community. This exhibit ends on Saturday, September 26, 2020. You can reserve your space online at redlineart.org. There's a $5 recommended donation. 4 days after the exhibit closes, our collaborative meetup groups, which are linked in this video description, will be having a Zoom conversation about Dwayne Glapion's art, and we'll explore art as the heart of Esteem Love. Welcome, Dwayne. We're so happy that you are willing to put up with my learning process.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm happy to talk with you. And life is about continuously learning and pushing. So,
Thank you so much. How old were you when you started
um,
to?
I think probably like most children, right? When you get the crayon in your hand. Um,
Yes.
but it was many years later when I started taking responsibility for my art and recognized that being an artist was my true essence and how I would be serving God. So it wasn't until maybe late 20s, maybe even 30-ish, that I took responsibility and decided to
Oh,
say, no, this is something I can't do just as a hobby. I can't do this. Because up until then, um, it was a spiritual communion with God. So it allowed me to find art allowed me to find inner peace and happiness without having to look outward. All I needed was a paper and a pencil, and I didn't need, money. I didn't need a lot of materials because it literally was just paper and pencil. So that gave me freedom, solace, and a way to express myself creatively and not be judged. So for a lot of my early life, a lot of people around me didn't even know I was doing art like that.
wow. Wow. When did you start the faces in the crowd, 100 portraits of community? When did
Um,
it begin?
it started in 2016, and it didn't start with a show in mind. It didn't start with any expectations. Actually, it started with um, me being in a low spot in time in my life, and through prayer and meditation, uh, I got the calling, I guess, to start on this journey. And I remember, when you're growing up as a kid, and parents will often tell you, "Hey, don't buy me stuff, make me something." My mom would always say that an art, draw me a piece of art, or do something homemade. It means more than just going out to buy something. And so I remember that lesson. And in 2016, um, through a hard time in my life, I just wanted a way to thank people who had supported me, been kind to me. So
Oh,
I
wow.
started off and I said, "Hey, do you mind if I do a portrait of you or draw you?" So it was a win-win because I got to learn, I was experimenting, and at the end I could give them something. And that's kind of
Oh,
how it started.
that's so wonderful. Wow. Um, I, I noticed there were people like, for example, I can't remember his name right now, but he's one of the many people that you painted, and he was an Air Force pilot, and then he went into art.
Yeah.
And do you remember his?
Ed Dwight.
Ed Dwight.
Yeah, he is one of the historical figures in the show. And keep in mind, when I started this process or this spiritual journey, I got through prayer, the number 100 came to me. And at the time, I didn't even think I knew 100 people, and let alone that I wanted to paint. So I started off with some friends, and then I would ask them, hey, who inspires you? Who motivates you? Who really has made an impact on your life? And they would refer me. So I didn't know Ed Dwight until later on, close to the end of the process. And that's kind of how it went. So it went from one person saying, yeah, do you know so-and-so? And I say, no, I don't. And they say, well, we got to make that introduction. And so it was like, again, a spiritual journey where you're walking in faith. And, the goal was not to have it be any kind of list or a best of or Denver's top. It was just simply, let's recognize 100 people. Some of them being well known, like Ed Dwight. Some of them, most of them, not so well known, you know. And that spiritually led me. That journey was the most rewarding thing about the whole process of 100 Faces, because there are certain circles I would have never gotten to be in. I
Did
was
you?
I was always an admirer of Ed Dwight, but I didn't really physically or personally meet him until I approached him to do his portrait, and he turned out to be just a wonderful person, and he is truly historic. And as a fellow artist, it was a wonderful time meeting
And
him.
you know that starting the 18th, I believe, the Wings Over the Rockies Air and Space Museum is going to be sharing the sculpture art of, and that's going to be going on past your
Yeah,
ending of your exhibit, of Lest We Forget About World War II.
yeah,
And so maybe next time we could talk to Ed Dwight. And
possibly. He's a
yeah,
titan. He is a giant.
yes, yes. Hopefully I'll be better at Zoom by then.
Everybody gets better.
Yeah,
Everybody gets better.
yeah. But did you know that George Washington Carver, who is an African American microbiologist, scientist, began with art? That's really what he wanted in his life. And he won in 1893 an award for his Spanish bayonet yucca painting that looked like a Rembrandt in lighting, and
Oh,
and
wow,
it
yeah.
was like it was talking to you. And but they didn't know he was African American in 1893 because some friends sent it to the Chicago World's Fair.
Nice.
And but they were at that time, there was so much, the history. The African Americans were just lucky to have a education, let alone beyond. And at Ames University, when they invited him to get a microbiology degree, they wanted to keep him and be the first Black professor, but
Yeah,
he wanted to go to Tuskegee. And but he had to leave his art behind to pursue science, and
he
he
had a
loved them
higher
both.
calling, but art definitely played a role.
Yes,
Art
it,
plays a huge role in learning in all facets. Um,
yes.
and that's what's really important, because I remember when I was teaching art K through 12, I I got to write my own curriculum, which was really wonderful, and I was very excited. And what I found out is, being a son of a teacher, becoming a teacher, and having a lot of people close to me that were educators, it's important to engage the children in as many um, ways as you can. So one thing that I was glad that they allowed me to do is write the curriculum. So what I ended up doing was, in art, you actually engage several disciplines: math, science, philosophy, psychology, And, I mean, it's endless. And I had made a huge circle of how art was at the center of that. And that if you were going to be a good artist, you had to learn a little bit about all these different disciplines and all these different facets. So I would talk to the math teacher and say, okay, what are you studying? Okay, it's fractions. Okay, cool. I'd make a note. Then I'd go see another teacher. Oh, science teacher. Oh, okay, this and that. All right. And I'd make a note, and I would try to incorporate that in the art lesson
Oh,
so
wow.
that it could, reinforce the other teachers what they were their lessons as well. So that was really cool. And then as the kids were starting to see how that tied in, I'll give you an example. So like the breakdown of the human anatomy. So in fractions, I would use, hey, this is the faces broken down into a third, or let's look at this object that we want to draw in thirds, halves, quarters, and what does that mean? And then we could add the math to it and say, okay, are you kind of understanding that? Because not everybody, uh, you have visual learners, you have auditory learners, you have, people who learn by the touch and feel and stuff like that. So you try to engage as many of those geniuses as you can. And that's how I felt kids learned best. And I had a great response, and the kids really took to that kind of learning when you're able to engage and you put
Yes.
music in it and whatever and I was able to point out that art was part of what they loved most. So I would ask the child, hey, what is it that inspires you or makes you excited, or what do you love to do? And they'd say, I like video games. And I say, well, guess what? Video games, the first person they come to talk to are artists. They have a creative who writes the story, but then they have the artist that has to bring it to life visually and create
Mm-hmm.
the environment. Or, hey, I like movies. Well, they do storyboards, to create. They have to create these, uh, robots and space and new worlds, and it has to be grounded in some sort of reality, which then again comes back to science, math, psychology, understanding. Because at
Mm-hmm.
the end of it all, art is just a way to communicate, and it's
I
a
love
very
it.
powerful way to communicate.
You hit it right on the head. You hit the nail on the head. Yeah, Dwayne, I am so, so grateful that you came to join us. I'm gonna wind it up so
Okay.
that you can get to your son,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm gonna share the last couple screens, and you could tell me. Well, let's see. It's probably, I'm not sure if I'm gonna get this done right the first time, but I don't know where it's gonna point me to. And this is a reminder to everybody that it's at the redlineart.org because during COVID they have to space out their visits, right? So that they don't have crowds. And
Right.
you were saying Saturday the 26th has a special.
Well, Saturday the 26th, because the show got postponed like 3 days before the opening, which was heartbreaking. Um, we're going to have some pretty wonderful people coming down, and I'm going to try to make it a celebration as much as we can. Have a end of show party, I guess. Just spaced out,
And
COVID.
outdoors, you have a beautiful outdoor balcony or patio
Yeah,
area.
we have
It
some
is
outdoor, and
awesome.
people
Is
can
it
enjoy.
going to be in the evening as well?
It'll go through regular hours, but you know what? That day, I think until people stop coming, we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. This is the big hurrah. This is the end of a truly historic show, and it won't be duplicated. I can tell you that. Um,
Yeah.
so it's one of those things that when you experience it um, for the first time, it really is. It hits you the importance of community and what kind of community we live in, and then the wonderful people that make up the community. So
Yes.
a lot of those wonderful people that you see on the wall are coming through and have come through and return, and just to celebrate community, one another, discover, learn, and enjoy smart.
Oh, wow. Wow. I absolutely love it. And I'm looking forward to that. And then I wanted to just remind everyone that um, you're going to be there every day for the rest of the week, right? So they can
I'm going to be
actually meet
there.
you.
The shows are there Tuesday. The show is open Tuesday, Thursday, Friday afternoon, and then Saturday for the closing. So I'll be there during those times. Um,
Okay.
but make sure, people log on to redlineart.org.
To reserve their space.
Right, because we can only have so many people in the space at a certain time. And
Right.
if people want to do something, or if there's special events, or if a special um, circumstances, contact Redline, and we're really good at accommodating those.
And then after they visit your um, beautiful, awesome exhibit, and as you said, it, it takes up a lot of space, and it'll be a long time before all of this the largest space is available. It may not happen in Denver. It may happen other places in other states or anywhere in the world.
Well,
And
this show won't be duplicated for a couple reasons. One, on the next day, people come and pick up their portraits.
oh,
And so it's not a traveling. It will take
it
maybe a
isn't
handful
traveling
of them to travel, just but for it in its
to be
entirety.
everything.
There's not too
Oh,
many places that can handle the 112, 115 pieces that I got up in there, and
yeah.
it's it truly is. It's just a blessing. And again, people are going to pick up their portraits and take them and enjoy them. And, we're going to work on a book, hopefully, and get that out, sort of like a table book.
And
Uh,
it will have all the portraits in it?
we'll have all the portraits and information on the people that were in the show. And
Oh, wow.
just as a landmark, kind of saying, wow, this was the community right before COVID and the world changed. And
Right.
I'm so very grateful that, knock on wood, that I didn't have to move anybody that was in the living portion, because we only had like 4 or 5 people in the memorial section. And that out of the 100 people, that we didn't have anybody else, transition or pass away. So I'm very happy that
Oh, that's
we didn't
wonderful.
have to move anybody else to the memorial, but it was, you know, so it's a blessing.
Oh, and that they're still with us to grow a new thriving community after we learn all that we have to learn from this COVID experience.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I think
Yeah.
it definitely brought people together,
Hmm.
distancing and community. And I got to thank Redline for really backing me and supporting the show. And it was truly a show that was right on time. You know,
Oh, yes.
um, it was a feel-good show, and with us being socially distant, it makes you really appreciate one another and discover one another. And hopefully, when the world gets the green light to move again, we won't take that for granted at all.
I felt so warm and hopeful and inspired from walk. I felt like I was seeing each in each painting the love in their eyes for their own individual purpose and meaning in their life, whether it was Cleo Parker Robinson and her love of dance, and or each person had their own um, vibration. You could just feel it, and it felt like I was meeting them in person with 100. I was surrounded by 100 people, and I didn't even have to worry about whether I had my mask on or not, but I did have my mask on.
Yeah,
But I felt like, oh, I'm getting to know them probably more than if they were standing right in front of me and we had a lot of distractions. Just
yeah.
looking, gazing in their eyes and reading their bio and feeling their presence.
And
It
that
was,
was cool, because with that, I requested that everybody in the show, they submitted their own plaques and their bios. So I gave them the opportunity to say as much or as little about themselves, because some of the people in the show have resumes that drop to the ground, just nonstop. So, but I kind of limited them. I said, look, keep it to 2.5 paragraphs. But I let them speak for themselves, because who better to tell their story than themselves? So
That's
it's
right.
like, you put out as much or as little or whatever you want about yourself. And if somebody wants to find out more, they'll search you out. So
Oh, that was awesome. Thank you so, so very, very much.
you're very welcome. Thanks for
So
having me.
grateful. And we'll we'll talk we'll look forward to talking about you on the 30th.
Okay.
your
Indeed.
art, and he's
Indeed.
and I think I'm going to try. I think everybody who wants to be there on Saturday or sooner better do it
Yep. Hey,
soon
you,
before their
once in a
slots are
lifetime, come
taken.
down while it lasts, and I'll be there. And I'd love to meet the people and thank everybody that took time enough to come and see the show because that means a lot to me. It
Uh,
really does, especially during these times. I don't take anybody's visit for granted, and it's just been a blessed show, bigger than I could have ever anticipated. And everybody that walks through and the people that have allowed me to paint them, I'm eternally grateful.
I'm tempted to go again, but I want to let it. I want to wait till everybody gets their chance.
Well,
Before.
all right.
Thank you so very much.
You're very
And
welcome.
so, bye for now. Thank you.
Blessings.